Hi, my name is Robin, and today we're going to be setting up the Klippa Identity Verification SDK for Android. There are a couple requirements before you can get started. You'll need a working version of Android Studio and an API key to generate sessions. Let's begin. Let's start by creating a project in Android Studio. Select New Project, and we're going to go with a basic views activity. Click Next and add the name of your application. I'm going to go with a demo account, or I'm going to go with Klippa Demo. Once I've done that, I'm going to leave everything default except the build language. I'm going to change that to Groovy instead. And then we can continue by clicking Finish. Once the project has finished generating, there's a lot of boilerplate code, so let's start by removing that. Let's start by removing at the bottom from line 58 up until line 38 all of the methods, and then also remove everything inside of the floating action button. We no longer need any of the navigational code, so let's remove that as well. And we can also remove the app bar configuration. On the left hand side, we can remove the first fragment and the second fragment, so let's do that. And in the res folder, we can remove two folders, the menu folder and the navigation folder. Then we can go to the layout folder and delete everything except for the activity main. We can go inside of the activity main and remove this include layout file. We've removed a lot of boilerplate code, so let's make sure to start the project or run the app to make sure it still starts. As you can see, the app's launched successfully. We now see the title at the top with the floating action button at the bottom. So we can start integrating the Klippa Identity Verification SDK. Let's go to the documentation and add the repository. So let's select this piece of code and then go to the settings.gradle inside of the project. And at the bottom on line 18, let's add a new line and add the Maven repository. Some of our dependencies are available on Maven, thus we need to add the credentials. It should look something like this. Then let's add the dependency itself. To do so, let's go to build.gradle, and at the bottom, let's add the line here. Once you've added the line, Android Studio is pretty smart and knows we need to synchronize these changes. So let's do so by clicking Sync Now. And we can verify that this indeed was successful by this green check mark in the bottom left. So now if we go back to the main activity, remove all the boilerplate imports, we should be able to import the Klippa Identity Verification SDK. So let's do so. As you can see, it's available, so that means we can already start using it. To do so, let's start by adding it into our main activity. So we need to create the identity session. Let's do that inside of our onCreate right there. And we need to import identity session. You can select it, hold down the Option key, and then press Enter, and it automatically imports it for you. And inside of our button, we can set a launch on the session. And at the bottom, we need to create this register for activity result. So outside of the onCreate, add this .identity session. And again, we need to import this. So holding Option and press Enter. So this session code will have a couple of codes available. For example, if the user failed the session, if they cancelled the session, or any other errors. It could also be a complete that it was successfully completed. To start using the Identity Verification SDK, you need to have a session token. To generate a session token, you can use your API key. In case you do not have an API key yet, feel free to contact us so we can generate one for you. Once you have your API key, in your backend you must create your session token. On this page, you can see all of the information on how to generate a session token. So I've generated the session token in my backend, so I go back to my Android Studio, and instead of this, your session token, I added in there. So now, if we launch the Identity Verification SDK, so the app has started, let's press the button in the bottom right, and as you can see, it prompts for the permissions, and we get the introduction screen. So that's how you set up the Klippa Identity Verification SDK for Android. There are also a couple of customization options. Today I'm going to be changing the language to Dutch. To do so, we can go to the documentation. Under the header Customizing the Session, go to Language, and here we can change it using this syntax, identitysession.language. So let's do so. .language, and now we're going to use kivlanguage.dutch. And let's launch the app again. And if we click the button in the bottom right now, we can see the language is Dutch. So that's how you set up the Klippa Identity Verification SDK for Android. If you run into any problems, check the documentation. If you still have some questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for watching.